A reading from Exodus chapter 17. The whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord commanded. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. So they quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses replied, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put the Lord to the test?" But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, "Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst?" Then Moses cried out to the Lord, "What am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord answered Moses, "Go out in front of the people. Take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and the water will come out of it for the people to drink." So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel. And he called the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled and because they tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?"
Good morning. It is good to be back here at Forge Road Bible Chapel. And welcome to all of you here and those joining us online. Coming back to FRBC feels a lot like coming home. I see a lot of familiar faces here in the crowd, and it's just a joy to be back. I was part of this local church for 5 years. I was loved and deeply cared for by all of you, and well-intentioned, or well-discipled by all of you as well. But there are a few faces here that I don't know, and so a quick word of introduction might be helpful. In January of last year, I moved to Colorado from here, and I now am taking classes part-time at Denver Seminary, and Jeremy, I guess, hiked up the expectations, so we'll see how that pans out. But I do want to give a special shout out. I did not know Bentley Tate would be here today, and he and his family were a huge blessing as I made that transition. And so I've been studying there in the Old Testament department toward a master's degree, and as I did here in Maryland, I'm also continuing to work in engineering and also volunteer with Young Life that we'll talk about at the end for a moment. But the most difficult part of making that move and making the decision to make that move was leaving this local church. And so I miss you all, and I thank you for inviting me back to speak. It's truly good to be back here. This morning we're going to be focusing on Numbers chapter 20, verses 1 to 13. This is the story of Moses and Aaron's tragic error that led them to not be able to join the Israelites to go into the promised land. This is the story where Moses strikes the rock and water miraculously pours forth from it at the waters of Meribah, literally the waters of contention. And this contentious event comes at the tail end of the 40 years of wandering. Moses and Aaron are exhausted with their people. The people of Israel have continued to make the same mistakes time and time again, complaining and rebelling and lacking faith in Yahweh, lacking faith in their leaders. And yet God does this miracle for them. He yet again provides water for them in the wilderness, in spite of Moses' and Aaron's failure, and he continues to reassert his commitment to the people, even when their leaders are not committed to them. Together, we're going to be reminded that God does not give up on his people, and because of that, neither should we. In a few moments, someone very special to me is going to be reading Numbers 20, verses 1 to 13. But before that, I want to briefly share with you a story of a man who is at risk of giving up on God's people, much like Moses and Aaron. Russell Moore is a pastor, or was a pastor in the Southern Baptist Convention denomination, also known as the SBC, the largest Protestant denomination in the United States. Moore was considered a rising star in the SBC until just a few years ago. He served as president of the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, a prestigious position. He was dean of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. He was a professor of theology and ethics there, and he got his PhD at that university. But today, Moore is not a popular figure any longer. His decline in influence began in 2015 when he was an outspoken critic of then candidate Donald Trump in the run-up to the 2016 presidential election. By 2020, Moore was openly clashing with SBC leadership, accusing them of a variety of moral failings, including sexual abuse scandals that were in large part vindicated by a massive investigative report that the Houston Chronicle did in 2019. The Houston Chronicle headline was direct: 20 years, 700 victims. Southern Baptist sexual abuse spreads as leaders resist reform. And this report was later buttressed in a 2022 separate investigation that found similar conclusions. And so disillusioned and rejected, Moore eventually left the SBC in 2021. And he chronicles these events of his fall from grace, so to speak, in 2023 in his book, Losing Our Religion, an altar call for evangelical America. And just listen to this quote from this book. I find it remarkable when I read it. Tell me if this is not a man who is at risk of giving up on God's people, much like Moses and Aaron. He says this: on the other side of the reverse altar call, I started to question everything. And that began a period not of questioning all my assumptions, but also of simultaneously grieving my lost religious home and my own burdened conscience, recognizing complicity and participating for so long in something that now seems both inane and predatory. I couldn't help but wonder if the plot twist to the story of the American conservative Christianity was that what we thought was the Shire was Mordor all along. I can't think of a more potent way for someone to express that they are at risk of giving up on God's people than to compare J.R.R. Tolkien's Shire and say that it's instead Mordor. On that dark and depressing note, we are going to leave that story right there, but I do promise that we will come back to that. But right now, I'd like to invite up Jen Deep to read Numbers 20, verses 1 to 13 for us. Jen is the best part of having moved to Colorado, even though she doesn't live there, but that story is for a different day.
Numbers 20, verses 1 through 13. In the first month, the whole Israelite community arrived at the desert of Zin, and they stayed at Kadesh. There Miriam died and was buried. Now there was no water for the community, and the people gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron. They quarreled with Moses and said, "If only we had died when our brothers fell dead before the Lord. Why did you bring the Lord's community into this wilderness, that we and our livestock should die here? Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to this terrible place? It has no grain or figs, grapevines or pomegranates, and there is no water to drink." Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance of the tent of the meeting and fell face down, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. The Lord said to Moses, "Take the staff, and you and your brother Aaron gather the assembly together. Speak to that rock before their eyes, and it will pour out its water. You will bring water out of the rock for the community, so they and their livestock can drink." So Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence, just as he commanded him. He and Aaron gathered the assembly together in front of the rock, and Moses said to them, "Listen, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock?" Then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. Water gushed out, and the community and their livestock drank. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this community into the land I give them." These were the waters of Meribah, where the Israelites quarreled with the Lord, and where he was proved holy among them.
Thank you. Now, this account has long puzzled readers of the Bible. And if you're like me, it makes you uncomfortable. How could Moses be punished this severely? Maybe Aaron, right? He was the ringleader of the golden calf incident, and maybe this put God over the edge. But for Moses, he had spent years of his life faithful to the Lord. He was, we could say, on the A-list, the top of the A-list celebrities of the Old Testament. There's a reason that at the Mount of Transfiguration, Jesus only meets with 2 Old Testament figures, and Moses is one of them. And in fact, Moses is the only person who is said to, in the Old Testament, to have spoken with God face to face as one speaks with a friend. And so with all of that reputation, all of that success, all of those things that he did for the Lord, how could it all be erased by a single action? And yet verse 12 makes it clear. Moses and Aaron will not get to see the fulfillment of their life's work. They will not get to enter into the promised land with the people. And the $1 million question is, why not? Commentators are split over how to answer this question. Some say Moses' core sin is that he was self-interested, that he was seeking to put the attention on himself and get the glory. Others speculate that he violated God's command to speak to the rock, and instead he strikes it, not just once but twice, and that's the main problem. And others say that the real problem, and I find this one maybe the most interesting, is that Moses and Aaron didn't ritually purify themselves, and that's why in the chapter before we get laws about purification in the presence of dead bodies, and their sister, Miriam, had died, as verse 1 tells us. Maybe that was the reason. This story is a good example of how reading and interpreting the Scripture can be difficult sometimes, and especially for those of us who are new to the Christian faith, who are new to reading the Bible carefully, these accounts can be confusing and even discouraging. But I encourage you to hang in there with me. And as Dr. Matthew Mullen says in his book, Enjoying the Bible, biblical stories often resist neat and tidy conclusions, but they draw us deeper in. We're going to examine this text in 3 steps, through 3 complaints. The first is the people's complaint. The second, Moses' complaint. And then finally, and most importantly, God's complaint. Earlier in the meeting, Danny Gorman read for us Exodus chapter 17, verses 1 to 7. And in case, and just a few moments ago, of course, Jen read Numbers 20, 1 to 13. And if you're confused because they sound like the same story, then you're going to agree with New York Yankees catcher Yogi Berra that it's deja vu all over again. Much like the cycles of conquering and being conquered that occur in the book of Judges, here in the wilderness wanderings, the story seems to be repeating itself. History is going around like a merry-go-round. The account of Exodus 17 is earlier in the wilderness wanderings. It's very early, in fact. It occurs in the first 2 months, we're told, after they leave Egypt. And yet, in just this very short window of time, doubt has seeped in, and the community is already going astray. In the previous chapter, chapter 16, God had provided miraculously manna for the people for bread, but they need water too, and so they complain for it, and they charge Moses and are upset. The accounts of Exodus 17 and Numbers 20 are remarkably similar, and these are just a few of the textual details that appear in both. For example, the people complain about Moses bringing them out of Egypt. They're upset to have left that place just to simply die in the wilderness. It's almost a copy-paste between the 2 stories. And while there are features of the stories that differ, like the fact that Moses is told to strike the rock in Exodus 17, but he's told to speak to the rock in Numbers 20, one cannot but be impressed by how similar the stories are. Numbers 20, verse 1 opens by telling us that these events took place in, quote, the first month. But it neglects to tell us the year. However, there are clues later that these events occurred in the 40th year since the Exodus. Aaron's death later in the chapter helps us to identify that. And so most scholars agree that the second miracle of the water from the rock occurred in the 40th year. And so with that in the background, I want to show you a map. And just stick with me for 2 or 3 minutes, because I think it'll help transform, as it did for me, an understanding of the wilderness wanderings. Exodus 17, verse 2, that Danny read, tells us that the people of Israel reach Rephidim around 60 days after leaving Egypt. And so that's around 300 miles, or 5 miles of walking per day. That's a pretty good clip. They made it a lot of the way just in the first 2 months. Then according to Numbers 13, chapter 26, we are told the people arrived at Kadesh, approximately another 300 miles. And so it's from here that the spies are sent out to scope out the promised land. And of course, tragically, this is where the people are then punished for 40 years for each day that the spies spent in the land. They're stuck here in Kadesh from this point on. And so if you're with me, you're noticing something odd. Within the first year, they make it more than 80% of the way of their journey to the promised land. And then they get stuck right here in Kadesh, or it's also called Kadesh Barnea in this map. And so all the way, here we are now in the 40th year, and they're still here in Kadesh. They're still outside the promised land. They're still complaining about having left Egypt. They're still asking Moses for water. Nothing has changed, and they are truly stuck. In a room of this size, I imagine that there are some of us here who feel stuck. Some of us are stuck in sickness or in a challenging relationship. Some of us are stuck in a job or in a financial pit. Some of us are stuck in addictive patterns. We're stuck. 40 years later, and the same story is repeating. The same old complaints, the same people, and in the same place. The 40 years of wandering didn't involve a whole lot of wandering. And most scholars agree the Israelites spent the vast majority of their time in Kadesh, stuck in the same place. Deuteronomy chapter 1:46 says, "And so you stayed in Kadesh many days, all the time that you spent there." This, in the Hebrew, is a rhythmic pattern. It's a bit of poetry, and it's in an ABBA pattern. And as one commentator says, it shows us the wearisome monotone of that lost history, that lost period of history for Israel. We've mentioned just how similar the accounts of Exodus 17 and Numbers 20 are. But one of the starkest differences is what the people say to Moses in their complaint. In Exodus 17, it's short and sweet. We just want water. But 40 years later in number 20, it's long and it's involved. It's angry, filled with disdain. The patience of the people is gone. The trust in the Lord is gone. It's long gone. And yet, despite how dark this situation appears, God is about to bring forth a miracle. God is going to provide for them because God is not about to give up on his people. But Moses is ready to give up on his people. And that brings us to the next section, verses 6 to 11, where Moses makes his own complaint. We're told in verse 6 that Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before the Lord. And before they even say anything, nothing's recorded that they say, God simply answers them. He knows what they need to hear and what they're going to hear next. But the reply is different than anything God has said to them before. He tells them to do two things. First, take the staff. And the second is to speak to the rock before the people, before their eyes, to make water emerge from it. Back in chapter 17, just 3 chapters earlier, we get this strange and interesting story about God commanding Moses to gather 12 staffs, or 12 rods, one from each of the tribes of Israel. And this is as if it were like the TV show Survivor, or The Bachelor, or God forbid, Love Island. Only one staff is left standing at the end. The rest are voted off the island because we read in Numbers 17:8 that Aaron's staff had budded, blossomed, and produced almonds. And it was God's way of showing, this is who I picked. Aaron and his priestly lineage, they will have the authority. And it's not just for any purpose that this authority is given. We learn in verses 5 and 10 that it is clear this is to be a sign, a sign to the rebellious, end quote, to, quote, end their grumbling against me, as we read in verses 8 and 10. So just 3 chapters later now, in Numbers 20, Moses is being told to pick up this rod, which is meant to be a warning against the rebellions, warning against complaints and against the lack of faith that the people have, and he's supposed to take it. And Moses is ready to give the people a piece of his mind with it. Moses' complaint, in verse 10, is a pivotal verse for the text. Staff in hand and ready to put the people in their place, he says, "Listen, you rebels, must we bring water for you out of this rock?" 40 years of anger and frustration, even rage, come bubbling to the surface. Time and time again, Moses has stood in the gap between God and his people. He has defended them. He has interceded for them. He has gone before the Lord for them, but not this time. This time, it's not like when Moses interceded to protect them from destruction at the golden calf. It's not like when Moses protected them and asked that God would spare them when the spies bring back the bad report from the promised land. This isn't like when Moses pleaded to not kill all of the people on account of just one man's sin at Korah's rebellion. Moses is done defending and interceding for his people. Instead of speaking to the rock, he speaks to the people. And he says and accuses them, rebels. And then he strikes the rock, which is something he wasn't commanded to do. Not just once, but twice. And perhaps it's out of anger But for a man, for a man who killed an Egyptian earlier in his life out of angry retaliation, maybe it's not that shocking. But can we really blame him? I mean, these people have been terrible to him. They've constantly questioned his leadership, his whole life. They've created breaks in the relationship with God for decades. They've caused chaos in Moses' life. And no doubt we have people in our life who add to our gray hairs too. But anger isn't the only emotion here. It's not the only emotion present. As in our lives, anger is typically a symptom of a more core problem going on. We get a hint of the deeper problem in the way that the question is worded. Now, bear with me. I know that grammar is not everybody's cup of tea, but I promise you for just 2 minutes, if we indulge, I think it'll help us to really understand what's going on beneath the surface. I have the Hebrew transliterated on the screen, but listen to what Moses says. He says, "No sea, water for you out of this rock." In every major translation surveyed, the Hebrew word no sea is rendered as either must we or shall we. However, this imperfect verb is linguistically flexible, and it could also be equally translated as can we or should we. Must or shall implies anger, but can or should implies a genuine question. Is God really going to perform this miracle for people like you? Is he really going to give up on you finally, perhaps? I mean, he said that you would all die in the wilderness. Maybe this is the moment. Another textual hint that there's more than just anger beneath the surface is in the beginning of Moses' question when he says, "Shemuna, rebels." Most modern translations render this as an imperative, listen, a commandment. And even a few add an exclamation point at the end of the sentence instead of a question mark. But those translations do neglect the word na, the word please. It softens the command. And instead of reading this as Moses angrily yelling at the people, it doesn't sound so much like an exclamation point, but a question mark. Instead, Moses appears to be genuinely asking the people to listen to what he's saying. He's in exhausted frustration mode. I see it almost like a father who's begging with his children not to make the same mistake, even though it's been the 100th time and they keep making the same mistake. It's as if Moses is saying, if God has given up on you, perhaps I should too. Can we really bring water for you out of this rock? But then an amazing thing happens. Against all odds, the miracle happens. God provides the water yet again. And it's not just a little bit of water. The text says that the water came out abundantly. And so the grammar lesson is now over. But the problems for Moses are just beginning. Next, we move on to God's complaint. This is the lowest moment recorded in the Torah of Moses' entire life. The psalmist in Psalm 106, verse 33, commenting on this event, says that Moses spoke rashly. Some translate it as thoughtlessly, or others foolishly. And God agrees. In verse 12, the Lord says, Moses and Aaron did not trust me to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites. And the obvious question is, how did Moses and Aaron fail to trust God in this situation? And a hint comes to us in the next phrase, honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites. The word holy is a word that we sung about earlier this morning. It's a word that's essential to this text. And just in case we weren't sure, it comes up again in the last verse 13, that God was proved holy among them. And while not obvious in English here, there's a play on words going on. The word Kadesh, or the place that they're at is Kadesh. When you pronounce holy, it's Kadosh or Kodesh. Both are spelled with 3 letters, 3 consonants, and you guessed it, the 2 are the same 3 consonants. Kadesh is a place of contradiction. It's a place of failures of faith, of getting stuck in a rut for decades. But it's also a place of holiness, a place where God is going to provide for his people. And from here they will go forth into the promised land. This phrase in verse 13, he was proved holy among them, is a bit of a strange one. And it doesn't appear that often in the Old Testament. How is it even possible for God to prove himself holy, or why would he even need to do that? Now, this phrase appears 8 times outside of the Torah, and 7 of those times occur in Ezekiel. In Ezekiel, this phrase has one very specific meaning. When God is proved holy, it is always because he is bringing his people out of exile. He's gathering them home back into the land of Israel. Take Ezekiel 39, verse 27 as an example. When I have brought them back from the nations and have gathered them from the countries of their enemies, I will be proved holy through them in the sight of many nations. I find Ezekiel's commentary, what I believe a commentary on this story, to be very helpful in understanding it. Ezekiel, I believe, is riffing off this story. He got it. He understood. He saw that if God is committed to his people, if God is willing to meet the people's needs, to give them what they needed was water. Despite their lack of faith, despite their lack of cooperation, their lack of their trust in their leaders. If that's true, then Moses' question was wrong. He was wrong to give up on his people because God will never give up on his people. So neither should we. I promised that we would return to the story of Russell Moore, so we'll do that now. We left off with a quote from Moore comparing Mordor and the church and saying that it's more like that than the Shire. However, that's not where Moore's story ends. In 2023, he writes this: "When the events of the last half-decade hit, some people wondered if I would grow disillusioned with the church or with Christ, or maybe even lose my faith. And I never did. And when asked why, I can only speculate that it's because it wasn't my first crisis of disillusionment." And then he goes on to tell the story of when he was 15 years old, and he contemplated suicide seriously. He explained that these suicidal thoughts emerged out of a tension that what he believed all along might be a lie. Having grown up in the church in the South, he was steeped in its cultures and practices, and he shared stories of blatant racism that he that he witnessed, rather. And he also told the story of a sex scandal that occurred in his church that caused him to have this crisis of faith. And so a remarkable thing happened, though. In Russell's 15-year-old self, he ended up encountering some of the writings of C.S. Lewis that actually pulled him back to faith. But he adds this, he says, "This deep dread within me," that he had a fear of a deep dread within me, quote, "that Christianity might just be Southern culture or politics with Jesus affixed as a hood ornament." But in the end, he came to a different conclusion. He reestablished trust in God and trust that God can work in and through the church. He writes that this crisis was terrible, and the crucible of it was never too far from the surface of my psyche, but I'm glad it happened. It was a manageable crisis that taught me to tell the difference between the glories of Christ and the terrors that could be the church. Now, Russell Moore is a controversial figure, and my point in bringing up his story is not so much to weigh in on how he related to the SBC or how he relates to the evangelical church in America, but it's simply to highlight the fact that giving up on God's people is a real and present danger in the life of Christians, especially among young people in the United States and throughout the world. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had an experience like Moses, in a very small way, but of getting to lead people. We took a group of high school students to a Young Life camp in Colorado called Crooked Creek. And yes, in case you're wondering, that is a picture of an inflatable crocodile. Or that is an inflatable crocodile. We were supposed to be the crocodile wranglers. While I was there, one of the speakers named Brian told this story about 2 of his Young Life kids that he had brought to camp years prior. Neither of them came to camp particularly interested about Jesus or hearing about the gospel or learning more about Christian faith, but Brian brought them anyways. Brian had this dramatic moment with the boys. Frustrated with their lack of interest in the gospel at camp, he casually went, and he's a very dramatic guy, but he casually went up to them out of nowhere, and he turns to them with no one around, and he says, "The hound of heaven is coming for you, and there is nothing that you can do about that." And then in dramatic fashion, without saying anything else, He turns around and he walks away. Later that summer, those two boys were saved. They came to know the Lord. Today, one works in full-time ministry in Young Life and another in a church. The hound of heaven is coming for you, and there is nothing that you can do about that. These words they've stuck with me. They're from a 19th century poem by Francis Thomas, The Hound of Heaven, which is about the relentless pursuit of the love of God. The miracle of the water from the rock at Kadesh is about God's relentless pursuit. It's about unfailing commitment by God to his people. It's about proving himself as holy by not giving up on them, but instead providing for them. And so he does with us, with this church, and with the global church. It can be exceedingly difficult to believe that at times. When the church fails, when it doesn't live up to expectations, or when it lacks faith, or even when it hurts us, it can be difficult to remain committed to God's people. And yet we affirm with Paul that even despite that kind of discouragement, quote, through the church, as he says in Ephesians, through the church, the manifold wisdom of God is made known to the whole world. The church is God's plan A. There's not a backup. Just like the people of Israel, he has fully committed to us. He will never give up on us. The water is going to come one way or another. The hound of heaven is coming for us. And praise God, there is nothing we can do about that. May God help us. May God help this local church, Forge Road Bible Chapel, to remain steadfast and passionate toward God, deeply committed to the gospel, and fully convinced that God is working in and through this local body for his praise, for his glory, and for our blessing, for the blessing of this community. Thank you for listening to me today and for inviting me to speak here. I'm going to go ahead and pray, and then we'll turn it over to Sean and the team to do our final song. So pray with me. Father, I thank you and give you praise this morning to be with this community of your children, of your brothers and sisters. God, we thank you that you are working miracles in and through this place, that lives are being saved, that the gospel is going forth, that Baltimore and the greater metropolitan area here are being impacted, and we trust and ask that that would continue to happen through this local body. We thank you that you love the people who are here. We thank you for your Son. We thank you to be a part of this, God. Help us to be reminded that you are committed to this place, that you love this place, and you love your church. You love each of us individually, and you love us corporately. We give you praise for this day. We thank you that we can trust in you for these things. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.